The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Абе, според мен ще бъде добра играта, като цяло. Чата да се отворя, да направя Game Capture. Okay. Please enter the current time. Ами... 10:08. То не може ли само да види? Добре, 10:08. Защо иска сегашното време? Окей. Перфектно. Дай ще видим играта. Окей, дай ще спра превюто. Ако има нещо ми кажете. Dents never. Dent is loading. What the fuck? Dent is loading never. Nice. I suppose.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on the keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Не точно. Чакай само.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley.
Не си ли гледал Stanley
Something he
Parable
would
преди?
never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say
Сега ще видиш,
hi.
тази игра е голям mindfuck.
Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Чакай само да намаля още малко. О, what the fuck? Не, окей, обърках. О, сега как е?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Окей. Ще само къде е митинг рума. The fuck?
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
Okay.
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Не следвам законите.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Okay.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
Oh shit, той има любовен.
This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Okay. Oh! What the fuck? Ще
That's
майка му да...
all, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. To reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
I mean, сега... Чай, да, това ме стресна. Jesus. Okay.
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Oh my god, fuck.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you?
Oh.
I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley.
Oh, damn.
I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here. This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Как бе?
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Как ти рут, маняка?
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly
Oh!
what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now
Чай,
he's
че
going
усетих какво
home.
става.
Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
Ако ще някой ли го натисна? Добре, окей.
But in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Бро, маняка е толкова fucking...
And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Spend time with the boys.
So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Окей. Разбирам какво има
As he
преди.
wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. and down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions, and down another was a game with a baby, and he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be?
Okay.
In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Окей, няма да го правя. Това звучи като психолог. Той е, май. Окей, няма да го правя. Дали трябва да го слушаме него? Колко време трябва да чакаме? I hate Mondays. Добре, не мина ли вече една минута? The fuck? Okay, fuck it.
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself? I suppose
Question
I
nothing.
can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again.
Please die.
And Stanley pushed a button.
Okay.
And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Толкова директно.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Окей, добре.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling
Tips for not
aggrieved
getting
with
fired.
disbelief,
Talk
Stanley
less.
decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Take it out passive aggressively on other coworkers. Resent coworkers for not supporting you more. Using slides to assure employees that everything is okay. Make sure your slide has a slick blue graphic as a header. And nice, okay? Everyone is unique. You most of all. Progressive. Number of slides in the slide charts. Charts. Monetize free to play. Created which charts on the same slide depict the same information. Rate of increase in graphs per slide. Please, no more graphs. Please, I'm begging, stop. The boss appreciation minute. On your boss appreciation minute worksheets. Okay, fill out the triplicate and return your boss appreciation specialist. Solving interpersonal conflict. If you ever find yourself in a conflict with another intelligent employee, like yourself, but more in what are your dreams of the future? Stoke, radio, transcend, success, lunch, clear skin, hope, pollution. Okay. Should go market. Yeah. Не че разбирам нещо. Please do not. Чай, какво? Това да не е заради бета версията.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Okay.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Искам да видя какво има долу.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be
О,
fired
Гери,
for
как си?
that.
Как си мина
And in
деня?
such a competitive economy,
Не,
why
няма за
had he
сега,
taken
спокойно.
that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his
Ходих да
feet
пия.
when he looked
Е,
down?
битов
Why did
алкохолизъм.
doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm
О,
dreaming!
радвам се.
He yelled.
Надявам
This
се да
is
мине
all a
добре работа.
dream.
Отколко се?
Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself,
О,
I
Геш, как си,
suppose I'll
брат?
wake up soon. I'll have to go
Мине деня.
back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Ехе.
Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself
The
sooner.
Stanley Powerball.
Why is there a
Guarda
voice in my
sigara.
head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all,
The Stanley Powerball. Никой ли не знае тая игра?
in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float
хем
and
беше
make the
добре,
magical
хем не.
stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin. the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air
Няма
of the
търпение за
world
последната
outside
доза,
this
за
one.
поредната доза сън. О, брат, ти
Let
на мен ми
me
се
wake
спи.
up, he thought to himself.
Карай, че спах цял
I'm
ден.
through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please. It's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife and my job.
Селек,
All I want
ти
is my
нямаш
life
работа.
exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal.
Така е, Гери.
Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Не се събуди. Опа.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I?
Geçiniz.
And everything went black.
Хем разбирам, хем не. Та игра,
This
бах
is the
трол
story of a
играта.
woman
Здравей,
named
диво, как си?
Mariella.
Откъде стигнахме до Мариела?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other.
Да гледам с
She
чил.
rose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Чакай да не умряхме пак. Да, умряхме пак.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Защо ме връща в началото?
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Okay. Эхе. Oh, don't get it, what's up? Executive bathroom. Oh. To be rich. Is it a crime? To commit crimes? Isn't it rich? What a life it would be to have to pick just one. Extreme bathrooms. Time. Трябва да не събудят. Що е, брат? Какво има на това компютърче? Дай ще натискам бутони. Тук ли?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked,
Като цяло не беше чак толкова интересно, имаше прекалено много хора. След това ще разкажа, Гери.
What he could not have known was that the
Аз
keypad
искам
behind the
такава
boss's
сградка.
desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him, and so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number.
Эхе.
2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley
Пак ли ще ме изнасилят?
correct code by sheer
Много хора. Сач.
He stepped into the newly
Каде ли
opened
турски
passageway.
джуниори? Не бяха толкова хубави. Къде бе? Ехе. Сега на къде? Но тук не е имало. Беше пълно, да. Какво са по-различните? Буквално не са въобще като българските джунери. Българските са много по-хубави според мен. Даже имам една порция.
Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of
Не
his
правят ли,
job.
бе? Как ти мине деня,
Why did he
Дункере?
feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Nice. Okay.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Предпочитам да избягам. Ма дали ще ме върне от началото?
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
По-добре, отколкото да ме контролират. Ма трябва да уча да отричам, че няма да се задържа много. Като няма никакъв проблем, брат. Приятно учене. Трябва да ставаш рано ли, Еге, що?
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Тест? Какъв тест? Предпочитам да избягам, отколкото да ми контролират мозъка.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Да, не ме е страх. И това изглежда страшно. Като техник, ще се справиш. Няма да умрем. Знаех.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story. Trapped forever in his narrow vision.
Trapped more like a trap to can.
Perhaps his death
Гоня
was
влак.
a great loss.
Се връщаш в Сливен ли, брат?
Eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Не бе. Не, аз просто искам да съм свободен. Не, брат. Не бе. Знаех си.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Стига, бе.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Аз значи съм умрял. Мъртъв съм. Nature painting. Не, просто да, няко. Окей. И това какво е тук? The two doors, the set of two doors was the very first concrete piece of the Stanley Parable's design. Once this room was created, the rest of the game emerged as an extension of it. An exploration of the contradiction. This room. Какво е тук? Corridor. The pacing of this opening section was important to get right. This corridor has been moved and altered to make sure the player reaches the two doors at the same time. Как така? Това е някаква пъзъл игра ли? Това е просто ценно си, да я знам. Ценно трипваш болс, брат, игра. The blueprint shows the office from the beginning of the game. The path Stanley's office, the two doors, was the first part of the game. Sections have been added and altered through the development, though the core layout remains almost identical. Ехе. Това тук са офис компютри. The Stanley Powerball Credits. И какво е това тук? Button sounds, selection of sounds used through the game. The buttons are pressed each is mix of... Имаше... Това ли беше играта? Абсолютно не знам. Maintenance room. An early version of the maintenance room. Поръчане... Чай. Ехе. Fun. Пари. Let's fucking go, брат. Какво има тук? How is the game going? I hope it's as good or better as the first one. From a cool man. Откъде се прожектира? Nice. Are you a rock? Quazone. Could you tell me what the significance of the number... Bruh. Какво? Това ще е нещо криптирано. Well, the thing I want to know is what would you do if Stanley entered any other homes? Медведко. How surreal will this game be? Were you born with a magnificent voice or bird? The Office. Опа, това е Netflix сериала. Ще му да видя и вагата. Окей, брат. To a different ending. Aha. Meeting room. Okay. Trailers. We ran out of major. We ran 4 major trailers over the course of the game's development. Nice. Наистина ли е това цялата игра? Че съм давал пари за нея. Ама, the fuck? Тук има... Чай, тук е екзит. Пак е по-дълго от Spider-Man. Така е, така е. И това там е интересно, искам да го видя. An early version of the underground portion. Изглежда чак толкова по...
Stanley pushed the big red button.
Okay. Stanley Parable. Freedom ending. Okay.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen.
Oh, bro.
Listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you.
I mean, окей. Поне не умряхме.
This is the story.
О!
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided
Пак
to
се
go to the
връщаме
meeting
на
room.
същото.
Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Окей, разбрах тая вляво. Ще не мога вляза вътре.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling
Защо на рейтера се смени на
Stanley
женски?
decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Бах ти шано в офиса.
Stepping into his manager's office,
Дали
Stanley
беше
was
бос?
once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet.
Като
And
цяло
so the
доста...
boss had assigned it an extra secret pin number.
Ехе.
2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Не, как?
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Значи, защото той трябва да ми нарейтва... Диктуя живота. Може бе. Собствения живот сам. Спи ми са майка му да еба. Аз спах до 7.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Окей. Ама искам да избягам. Не, бил майката, няма да бягам, значи. Ще ми контролират мозък. Ух.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens.
Hey,
What
television.
horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself.
Не
Did he
вярно.
have the strength to find out?
Не. Ама нямам друг избор.
Now the monitors jumped to life. Their
Их
true
един
nature
уволнен.
revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
4 дни кое бяхме? 4-2-8 май. Ни 4-2-8 ли бяхме или 4-6-8? Или 4-1-2? Не съм сигурен, не се сещам. Има един-двама уволнени. Там един щупен. Умрял е.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible?
Okay, благодаря ти, брат.
His entire life utterly blind to the world?
Дали бе?
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place.
И
And
какво
as
пак
the
е?
cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life, for he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Моля да бъда така. Не. Хей. Вече мога да отида някъде другаде, освен Power fucking Facility. Awaiting input.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Добре. И сега ми се изключва компютъра. Imagine. Това звучи крипи.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over?
Приключили контрола над моя мозък.
He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command.
Толкова лесно ли
Freedom
бе?
was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his.
Бах
That
ти
was
якото.
all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Ето това ли прилича много на врата.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Ей, найс. Значи трябваше да слушаме на рейтера. Така се оправиха нещата. И сега се връщаме пак в това. Окей. 4-2-7 сме ние.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
О, майко.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Лека морце. Връч беше стрима, брат. Се видим.
When Stanley came to a set of
Следващия.
two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Мислих си, че има повече неща зад тая игра, to be honest.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Oh no, no, not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room. Please take your time.
Как побудя. Окей, дай продължай.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ама искам... Тут и тука... Не, няма... Не вярвам на това повече. Ще отида нагоре. в тяхната гледка. Толкова слънце направо. Защо се отварят сами вратите? Хе. О, не, кунг-фу панда умира. The fuck? Каквото стане. Дай нагоре. Що се движим надолу. Тази музичка ми е позната. Такова generic elevator music. Се едно направо. Май се движим надолу. Ма ние сме на същото място. Много epic game. Така е. Don't copyright it elevator. Как си или как ти мина деня? Найс! Даже на рейтера си наника песента. Вече е копирайтед. Мимина. Като стане така.
The moment he entered his manager's office, Stanley froze in his tracks. Not a living soul anywhere.
Oh, ne.
Could he really be all alone? This was too much for Stanley to take. Too much for any man to take. He fell to his knees, bursting into half moans, half sobs, the guttural retching of life from a man denied any hope, any reason to keep going. Here on the floor he lay prone, paralyzed by fear for nearly a full hour. But when at last he began to move about and survey the situation, he found a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could it mean? Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk.
Okay.
That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming new age music.
Дейва. Как знае, че имам anxiety? Мога да релаксвам.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Okay. Не, това няма нищо. Как минава работа или? Всичко окей ли е там?
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Окей. Добре.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold?
427. О, Раде, какво става, брат?
The strength to find out.
Минава и тя. Радвам се много, Енде. Всичко минава. Някак се държим. И аз се чуя как става.
Now the monitors jumped to life. Their true nature
427.
each bore the number of an employee.
Добре съм, Раде, ти как си?
Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen. And Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Я считам, че ставам рано. Окей, Гери, лека нощ. Сладки сънища и ще се видим на следващия стрим.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life
Виж как пише Pirate! Виж как пише Pirate!
Was it even possible?
Не, аз имам
Had he
бета
truly
версията.
spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley
Радвам се, че ти
decided that this
харесва, брат.
machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Две. Не мога да се кача там. Къде е 3? И това тук е 5. Трябва всичките тия бутони да ги натисна. Окей. Сега ще ги натисна, няма проблеми. Добре. Да не видят, трябва да се върна. Аха. Това нова игра ли е? Да, брат. Аз чувствам точно така. I feel you, Andy. I feel you. Дай ще го пуснем. Дай да контролираме хората. Майка им дай ба.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he... Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? You.
Крашна ли?
After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control?
Това изглежда страшно.
I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do.
Чай, нарочно ли влизва така играта?
Supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off tree, I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification,
DNA.
Detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex.
Nuclear. The fuck?
How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes.
Това са 2 часа.
Now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me.
Не бе, майка ти да е ба.
What all this means, I barely know where to start.
Защо фризва?
What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated.
И фризва веднага.
All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left.
Брат, fuck you.
I'm enjoying this so much.
4.
You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not?
Ей, благодаря
These
ти.
are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow.
Откриването на годината.
Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now?
Да, наистина вече не
You
знам.
just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off. I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. This big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is?
Бах ти злобня!
You're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble.
Добре, нали едно?
It's a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first. So
Goodbye, employee. Ама, брат, стига бе.
That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30
Обазвай се.
seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here. Just you being blown to pieces.
Ама,
Will
брат,
you cling
не бе.
desperately to your frail life? Or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same to me. All a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say happily ever.
I mean... И сега пак ще се върнем в... О, майко.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
New content!
Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
Nice, new content. О, фак. Добре, за какво е нужно това? Просто ми дай... Бра. Окей. Просто ми дай да фъкин ходя на където и да е.
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over.
Okay.
Please step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content.
Ultra.
Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure.
Дали бе?
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... oh, there we go. All right, finally,
Nice.
At long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
Накрая, нов контент! Уу!
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
Okay. The jump circle.
All right. All right, let's see. It's the jump circle.
Да, значи само в него мога. Окей. Значи преди 2 години обещая да ти кажа кога започва порадника на розата. Почва другия месец. Дали бе? От такова то само в Болград ли?
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right?
Jumping mechanic.
Goodness.
Oh, oh,
Stanley,
nice.
I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content,
Не, наритър, ама
read
кефи
the
много.
whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell,
Nice.
I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh wait, there's more. Very good. Yeah.
Да, още
I knew there had
забавно.
to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
Okay. Thank you for showing the new content.
That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley?
Okay.
This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore."
Не знам, аз имам
Quality
бета
assurance
версията.
department signed off on this. I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find them on Twitter and hold them
Okay.
personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game, and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
Ама, чай, то... Оу. Найс. I hate Mondays. Няма нищо. Пише от една страна Pirate, by the way.
Psst. Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something.
Кофинът. Сега shout-out Гарфил. Той искаше да ни убие по-рано. Аз не му имам доверие. Майка му заебале! На баракирим буркуси. Батмане. Бе, това е много найс. Нов контент. Виж, той ще
Okay, you
подкача
remember how
на...
cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just
Ехе.
our little secret.
Insane content update. Ехе. Това е само за мен ли?
I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
Okay.
You see, Stanley, doesn't the memory zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013, when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Това е старата Mozilla. Nice. These components of a great corporate culture. The Stanley Parable demonstration. Smile because it happened. Nice, boss на Макла smile. A trip down memory lane. Go outside. Don't play 4 or 5. It is impossible to get this achievement. Nominee. British Academy Award Game Innovation. Okay. British Debut Game. Okay, пак. British Story. Stanley Parable deals tough choices. Of course.
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that?
Neon.
Every game ever created. That's how grand
Brother.
and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them. And
Nice.
now, it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Yeah. Fantastic Arcade. Here. Ще ти мине спокойно. The Original Remake. Какво? Ей, това... What? Това от мапа, ама не мога да разбера коя страна, коя част от мапа. Какво има тук?
Here's
Това...
another moving passage,
това
this time
GameStop.
from GameSpot.com.
GameSpot.
The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone. To spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
Тая игра трябва да е някакъв mindfuck. Carpet textures. Nice. Source SDK. Objects create levels graphics. Това какво е? Collector's Edition. Играта 99% от времето. Така е, да. Чай да видя какво стана с курсовата ми. Още не е оценена. Let's go.
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
Дали,
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny. with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
Окей. Виж, има две поне позитивни. Тук има негативно. Още едно негативно.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. Well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let
Тук са
these people down.
позитивните.
Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
The jump mechanics.
What's this one got to say?
Ма поне
You
9 часа.
constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
Окей. Да,
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of... Well, there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well, there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer, and my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone.
Oh,
I've
what?
looked at it from every angle. I've checked every one of those walls 1,000 times, and there's no door, Stanley. There's no door. There's just you and the button, and if you keep pressing it, I have no idea what will happen. I have no idea how long I'll be made to sit here, and more than anything else, I don't know how to stop you from pressing the button again. I can't control anything in this room, Stanley. I can't touch it. Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again.
No.
Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here. Not a single person to speak with.
Oh,
hello.
И сега умрял.
You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley. Days, months, I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to undo the past. And when that feeling had begun to subside, what took its place is what I can only describe as the collapse of every moment I have ever experienced.
Окей. Если просто Боляка умрел. Това ли пише?
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed.
Как продължава да говори?
The end is never the end, 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 is never the end.
Аз сега по-бързо мина. Има нещо отзад. Не, няма нищо, окей. The fuck? Вече е слънчево ли, бе? То се едно такова... Jesus Christ. Бах майката, много светло е. The fuck? Какво стана с нарейтера? Да не умря? Това е fucking creepy. Повече не мога да скипвам. Аз... става ми тъпо за нарейтера. Къде сме били до сега, бе? Просто ще избича на някъде. Някой the end. Остана с новия контент.
Stanley had never seen the office this brightly lit. Was it a sign of something? He hoped it was. He hoped very much that it was.
Не беше ли тук новия контент? Oh fuck. New content. Let's fucking go.
Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
Защо трябва да има лоудинг скринове? Просто прилоудни всичко в рамта ми крашни компютъра. Така е по-добре. Чай да факт.
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out.
Като цяло,
The original Stanley parable
новия
was a
контент
landmark,
беше
and
nice.
any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
Ого.
This, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for.
Два. Български.
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
They're back. 2 doors. The doors. New content is out. New content part 2 is in. Orange busted. New hotness switch. Cool section of the chat. Let's go. Ихе. Това Google. Такова Google презентацията. Сега ще има двама.
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
To the show floor. New feed. Whoa. New content. Даже имате автобус. Има и мъж. Nice. Here
we are. Go on. Try out some of the new features.
Да, искам малко мърч. New game, new content. Какво е това? No, please, no screenshots.
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
Нито едно. Ага.
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get Well Someday it is.
Okay.
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision, we're moving on.
Free new plus easy achievement. Code deliver, receive no more steps, it just works.
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes. You see, okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
Дейва. Не знам защо очаквам да има някакви скримери. Очаквах поне джъмп механика да има.
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
Jump circle. New content. Jump
You know
circle.
what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's a... Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle. Oh well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then.
Не може ли да дадеш още? Уф. Collectibles. Oh, that is nice.
Collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
Nice.
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
Ой, къде бе? Влизам вътре и надясно. Това изглежда интересно. Hear your name in the game.
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful?
Jim.
Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim.
Devo.
Of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it.
Окей, аз съм Jim.
Here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind.
Радваме, че все още пише джаз в описанието.
Jim.
Jim.
Whoa, hold on. I wasn't finished setting up the backstory. If you don't properly roleplay as Jim,
Не се сещам кога съм го добавил.
the impact of this button. Otherwise, it's just a stupid button that says somebody else's name. Okay, we're doing it again, and this time let me finish first. Now, allow yourself to become Jim. Imagine yourself driving to work as Jim, playing frisbee on the weekends as Jim, staying up all night for a popcorn and horror movie sleeping as Jim,
Цялата игра е един
developing a
глич.
substance addiction as Jim,
Ихе,
rediscovering yourself through fringe religious groups as Jim, and
Substance
finally
addiction.
dying a slow death at an old age, surrounded by members of your cult as Jim. Do you feel it in your soul? Are you
абсолютно.
really, truly Jim right now?
Разбира се.
If so, then please step forward and press the button.
Jim.
Yes! You see? What a thrill! What a rush! That was you! The button described you. Do it again. Do it again.
Окей.
Jim.
Ooh, it hits even harder the second time. If this were the only new feature in the Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth the money. Let's take a break from the Jim button. I'm too emotionally drained from all of this personal validation. Whoa there, cowboy. Sometimes a person can be too much Jim. I'm putting the Jim button away. Otherwise, soon you'll start to lose all sense of who you actually are.
Jim.
Окей, Раде. Actually, ма кефеше как казваше Джим. Ехе, макбукче. Мога да вляза в тази врата. Помислих си, че наистина ще ми каже името. Що има две такива врати.
I suppose I could allow only people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable too. That would actually save me the work of finishing this feature.
Епилог. Infinite Hole. It wanted. Окей, искам да пробвам Infinite Hole. No screenshots. Все едно такова. Не може ми скриншотваш NFT-то. Opening Depth Infinite Surrounding Area. Rim. Ехе. Това ли е земята тук? Бог ти, как... Колко шадо изглежда.
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right.
Абсолютно
Infinite
никога.
falling. You can fall until the end of time if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium.
Как иронизират.
You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward. Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to go back to the top. Maybe do it on the
Наистина се
sooner rather
отдалечава.
than later spectrum of things.
Actually, това е satisfying.
Okay, Stanley, I don't know quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole. I don't want anyone to say that it isn't an astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a...
Майко.
Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and
може
a cheat, and
цигар.
you're so clever. Look,
Юмрук.
I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely? I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem. Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
Мисля, че мога да е глич на играта. Окей.
Great. Now, I'm very excited to show you... Oh, for heaven... You see, I was right. The problem is you. The problem is that you like holes too much. A normal person would have said, yep, that's an infinite hole right there. Goes on forever till the end of time. Don't need to see it all, but not you. Oh, no, 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 no. You have a weird sort of... Oh. Did the hole seem even shorter to you this time? I couldn't help but feel like you spent a little less time in there than you did before. I mean, admittedly, I didn't make an infinite hole, but I didn't think it was that not infinite. Well, I suppose once again there's nothing to do here. If you decide you've had enough of the hole, you can hit the teleport button and come join me up above. Had enough? I'm positively thrilled. I really... Gosh, how could I have guessed? You're back in the hole. If this starts to become a thing that... Wow.
Okay.
Yes. I'm starting to become extremely certain that the hole is not only not infinite, but that it's growing steadily less and less infinite. I suspect that I'm starting to hit the point where it's no longer feasible to call the hole infinitely deep, even by the lax overall standards for accountability in marketing. What's going on here? Stanley, I have no explanation for the uncertain nature of the hole's length. Here, let's try something. Let's pop back up to the top, and we'll see if it gets any shorter. Well, there it is. The shame of my... How is this still appealing to you? I know you're obsessed with holes, but at this depth, I just can't see this scratching the itch. Oh, who am I to judge? You just do whatever it is you're here to do and hit the teleport button when you're ready to move on. Is the teleport button not working? You sure? Well, I mean, I really don't have an explanation. It was working just a moment ago. Try it again. Still nothing? Well, I suppose there is one thing I can do to fix this. I'm out. Goodbye, Stanley. You couldn't bear to be away from the hole, and now you'll get more time with it than you could ever have asked for. It's a win for everyone. You get to be with the hole, I get to do literally anything else.
Oh.
Take care, Stanley.
Never.
I hope you and the hole have a wonderful rest of eternity together.
Never, брат. Какво става? Просто да цикам бутони. Оу, шит. Чай защо става по-дълбока. The fuck? Малко ми липсва на рейтера. Окей. Как се опитва да ма шеймне? Oh, what? Чай, какво? Oh. Nice. Random PNG.
Stanley!
Oh.
Oh, good, you're awake. It seems you had sort of dozed off there, drifting away into dreamland. But we can't have that, Stanley, because this hole is just so darn fascinating that I want you to be wide awake for every second of it. You don't want to miss a single moment. So how about if I just pop in from time to time and wake you up to keep you really truly focused on the whole? From the looks of things, you and I will have many, many years here in this hole, and I'm looking forward to all of them. Stay alert, Stanley. I'll be back. Toodlepip.
Сега ще се върне. И какво става сега? Oh shit, nice.
Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
Reassurance bucket. Окей. За какво ще ме реашърва?
A common complaint of the Stanley parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm
По
happy to
60
say that
FPS,
after
Анди.
much
Не, не е по
consideration,
60.
I've engineered
И
a
стрима е
clever
30
solution
FPS.
to this
Какви силотини,
fundamental
каквито ми на
problem
деня.
of the game. It's the Stanley parable reassurance bucket. You see,
Ехе.
Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be
Damn.
honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try. Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be
О,
sweeping through
борите
your
за
brain.
събчето Марти си жива и
Can
здрава.
I say that I do
Как
believe
ти ме
the
е
bucket
деня?
lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just
Бива.
holding it has made you the
Готвих си
slightest
днеска.
bit more attractive as a
Сядах,
person.
седях гладен
Benefits
2
of the
дни.
bucket seem to go
Играх
on and
роклик,
on, don't
пекис
they?
и радвам се,
All
брат,
this
само
and
те. Борите
more
много за
await
събчето Марти.
you
Как си,
in
как ти
the
ме е деня?
Stanley Parable 2.
Имам си вече бъкет. Let's go. Това ми беше част от бъкет листа.
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already.
Ми спри да играеш лига. Easy as this. Infinite Hole. Mostly вече, окей. The Jump Circle. Там вече бяхме май. Какво е? Exit. Не можем да избягаме сега. Unironically, you. От 8 сутринта до 7 това е много. Много скриншот. О, майко, what the fuck? Че няма да имам изпит по един от предметите и съм по-гърст. Nice! The button that says the name of the player that's playing the game. Аз съм вече Jim.
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, yes, it will go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
Окей. Тук нагоре какво има? Аз имам моят бъкет, съм си щастлив. Settings. World Champion. Oh shit. Защо е така? Факт там. Значи не съм World Champion. Еми, може отидеш да хапнеш, да правиш нещо. Тая дупка. Mostly Infinite Hole. Бях го събрал колектибъла. Мисля, че минахме всичко. N-E-U е най-странният начин да произнесеш много. Компанията ми няма да е с мен. What? Защо?
Alright, have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now?
Absolutely. No screenshots. Okay, хора, не можете да скриншотвате.
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay
Ай, те са също
experience.
уникоетици.
Okay. Are you ready?
Като цяло
Here
не.
it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
Ехе. О. 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 А? Ало?
Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind.
Не, мисля, че е много
Hold
добре.
on. Let me do a different arrangement.
Не, така.
Okay, yes. Yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2.
Го направя, брат.
Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Дай да видя. Сега ще ме върне в... Окей. Ихе. Аз мисля да лягам сега, by the way, хора. Извинявам се, че правя такива къси стримове последно време. Ама... Такова, искам да легна и да се опитам да поспа. Заради, защото имам контролно утре. Само да видя дали нещата с играта ще продължим оттам, откъдето сме започнали. С The Stanley Parable 2. Actually не очаквах да... предположил го, ама съм някакво nice. О, fucking hell. И ми кай, че отначало ще трябва да започнем. Hang on. Oh my. A lot of people don't take the steps seriously, they just leave. Wow. Okay. But you're actually taking the time to say that, I can appreciate that. That's how I know that you care about this experience, you're paying attention. I don't even have any way in knowing if the time you're setting is correct. Tell you what, I'll make you a deal. Since you've been so cooperative, next time you boot up the game and see this screen, just set the clock to your favorite time. Go ahead, pick whichever time you want. And if it's not correct, you learn it. Alright. Alright, to get back to the video game now. Това е... Не, брат, обичаме тази игра, не знам какво става Вайнкс. Аз сега ще спирам стрима. Не, тази игра е fucking amazing. Как ти мина деня, Вайнкс? Господин Педал Вълков стримва ли? Да, стримва. Курс за плоскост. И хевико за много псува. Чай. Иван също какво заевата?
I died. Emil, welcome Gus. Welcome Gus.
Ай хора, само да видя. Марти, благодаря ти за съба. By the way, Диво, Никче, Лютеник, Вайнкс, благодаря ви, че бях на стрима. Лъвял, ще се видим на следващия стрим. Лека нощ, сватих сънища.